The Quran is a miracle. Nothing else like the Quran has ever been produced. The Quran is the strongest proof that Muhammad was a true prophet. We hear these claims made quite often, but do we truly understand them? What makes the Quran so otherworldly? Why is the Quran a miracle? There are many reasons, but for now, let's explore three big ones. Reason number one, the Quran is a literary masterpiece. So what, you might ask? There are lots of great works of literature in the world. This is true, but there's something different going on here. How many literary masterpieces do you know that were first conveyed by an illiterate person? How many of them were spontaneously created in response to unscripted questions without a drop in linguistic quality? How many verses were recited in a culture with such strong oral tradition that the poets were prized above all others, yet the poets of that time were unable to mimic or improve upon them? The Quran accomplished all of these things. When Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, a hater of Islam until his death, was asked to critique the Quran, he responded, "And what can I possibly say? There is not a single man among you who is more versed in poetry than I or in prose. And by God, what he says bears no resemblance to any of these things. By God, his statement which he utters has a sweetness to it, and a charm hovers over it. Its highest parts are fruitful, and its depths gush forth without end." Reason number two, the Quran contains historical information that could not have been known at the time of revelation. It's common to argue that many of the historical narrations in the Quran were taken from the Bible. While it's true that both holy books tell the same stories, there is a key difference. The Quran contains accurate details not found in the Bible. For example, in the Quranic narration, in the story of Joseph, peace be upon him, the ruler of Egypt is never referred to as the Pharaoh. In the biblical version of the same story, the ruler is called the Pharaoh. Why is this significant? Because the king of Egypt in Joseph's time was not a pharaoh. Historians have found that during the era of Joseph, the rulers of Egypt were an invading force from Palestine, and hence they were called the Hyksos, literally foreign kings, not pharaohs. This isn't a coincidence. Later in history, during the time of Moses, the ruler of Egypt was a pharaoh and is referred to by this title across several chapters in the Quran. There are many other examples of the Quran departing from the biblical narrative or adding new details to biblical stories that would later prove to hold some historical significance. Maybe there was a version of the Bible available to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that has since disappeared. This would make sense, except that the historical record indicates that there were no versions of either the Old or New Testaments available in Arabic, Muhammad's language, until a century after the Quran was revealed. There are also no known versions of the Bible that would have contained the accurate historical details found in the Quran. Maybe a Jewish or Christian scholar taught Muhammad these details. There was simply no time or circumstance in which this could have happened. The sources of Judeo-Christian knowledge in the time of Muhammad were limited and passing. But the volume and accuracy of what the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, taught could only be attained through decades of apprenticeship that would be impossible to hide. They certainly couldn't have come from a few short encounters. Reason number three, the Quran has been preserved in its original form. The Quran itself contains verses in which God promises its preservation. Is this in itself a proof? As it turns out, yes. After a millennium and a half, today's Quran perfectly matches with the Uthmanic Codex, the full text of the Quran that was compiled by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him's companions. The consistency of the Quran's oral transmission is also rock solid. Every oral recitation all over the globe is consistent with every other oral recitation, and they are also compatible with the written form of the Quran. As we have seen with the Bible, this is extremely unlikely to happen on its own. Historical texts are often edited, lost, changed, forgotten, or otherwise altered by human intervention over the course of history. With all this information in mind, then, is it possible that an illiterate man from 7th century Arabia could create a linguistic masterpiece with intricate details of lost knowledge and complex theology that has lasted unaltered for over 1,000 years? Of course not. What we see in the revelation and preservation of the Quran is the divine at work. Is it not sufficient for them that we reveal to you the book which is recited to them? Indeed, and that is a mercy and reminder for a people who believe. With this then, let us conclude that the Quran is indeed a miracle.